Hey guys, welcome back to another week with the OXFam.
Another week has gone by, and we're going to start you out this week on Monday, the 22nd. And when we left you last, we were at Bahia Reconnecting, and it was a cool beach with a sandbar between an island and the shore. And we spent one night there. It was a pretty cool area. It was just a little exposed, so we didn't want to spend too much time there because it was kind of windy at night. And so we got some drone shots, got some pictures, packed up, and then went into Mulahay to meet up with our friends Never Say Someday. But before we did that, we went to my favorite taco place in Baja. I think it was called Briote, everybody. Couple that run the cart. He used to be a mechanic, and then he decided he was going to start cooking fish tacos instead. And shrimp
They're
tacos.
pretty good.
Yeah, which I'm glad he did. So, still, the jury's still out on whether or not the other shrimp tacos are better, but I still have to try them. So, but yeah, so we were at that taco truck, hung out there for a little bit, and then
So we went over across the street to I think it's called Don Chano's?
something like that.
It's an RV park, and that's where Never Say Someday had been camping for a couple days. Packed everything up with them and headed back out to the beach that afternoon. And we checked out Escondido.
Yeah, and it was a little bit too packed. But we ended up staying one beach over at Coco's. Yeah, which was awesome.
When we got to Coco's, the kids got out of the car and they're like, "Oh, Mom, look, like there's Donnie and Tristan and Edgar," these three boys that they had met back in La Paz when we had camped at Maranatha's. And so the kids were all excited, and actually Levi and Harvey had known them from Never Say Someday, those two boys.
You kind of end up meeting all the same people when you're on the road because the travel community, it seems like you wouldn't run into each other, but
all the kids knew each other, which was awesome, and they just had a blast. They took over one of the palapas and made it kind of their own like kid zone. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool running into them again and just reconnecting. That night, we ended up doing a family style dinner. I made some pasta and pesto and a salad, and so we had a big family dinner that night and hung out. We had a campfire, roasted marshmallows, and it was really relaxing.
We all got up and went fishing.
We all, as in?
Me, Steven, I guess it was just me and Steven. We were going to take the kids, but they ended up bailing on us because they wanted to play. And so me and Steven went out fishing, and I never catch anything fishing. I'm like cursed when it comes to fishing. Me and Steven came back in. We're in for a little while. He decided to go back out for a few minutes and catch fish and caught a few fish. So I don't know what it is. Maybe they smell me, but I'll keep trying until I can get something. And then hung out for the afternoon. Didn't do too much. And then we used Never Say Someday as kind of our guinea pig and did a tiny home tour for them through their van and whatnot. And it took most of the afternoon, kind of fought the wind a little bit, but ended up shooting that whole thing. And then basically eating dinner with everybody that night and had a repeat of the previous night.
Had a good time that evening.
Yeah, and then Wednesday...
Well,
oh yeah.
Let me go back into Tuesday afternoon. One other thing that happened was Jason had realized that Yuki's eye was super pussy. So I started kind of looking around at him and noticed that one of his teeth was rotting in his mouth. And so he was concerned. He wanted to take him into Mulahay to get him checked out. But there wasn't really any vet in Mulahay. There was like a
dog rescue
in Mulahay, but it wasn't an actual vet. And so we had decided on Wednesday morning to pack up, and it took a super long time to pack up.
And it was a 4-hour drive into Guerrero Negro. It was kind of the closest town with a decent vet. And so we basically went straight into the vet.
We got there around 5. Jason, of course, sends me into the vet and says, "Babe, you take Yuki in to go, try and figure things out." And in Baja, the kids can't go into any grocery stores, any businesses, and so he waited outside with the kids. So I brought Yuki in, and the guy, brought me into the room right away. There was nobody in the vet, and he's looking at Yuki's tooth. He's like wanting to pull it out right there. And it was 1,000 pesos if they gave him medicine, or 300 if they didn't. And the tooth was barely in there. He pulled me in the room, and then he was like kind of showing me, and it was hardly in there, but it was really bothering him. He was crying when we were touching it, and so he's like, hold him down. I'm like, okay. So I held him down, and honestly, there was like, it wasn't attached at all. It just like came right out, and pretty much as soon as it got out, you could tell Yuki felt a lot better. So yeah, that cost us $15 in Baja to get our dog's tooth pulled. Yeah, 300 pesos, $15 US. But and then we went in and met up with Alicia and Edgar again, and they were camped at a old lighthouse, and it's kind of like a fishing port now. But basically just stayed the night, talked for a little while, went to bed a little early, and then got up the next morning, and we were kind of planning on heading in together, but we ended up just separated. They were a little bit behind us, and we were going to catch up on the road, but it really never ended up happening. But from there we were kind of heading into the Ensenada area to meet up with my cousin. And from Guerrero Negro to Ensenada is about 8.5 hours, so it was a super long drive day. Yeah. I think we only stopped once to go to the bathroom on the side of the road and once for lunch, so it was pretty quick. Like, we did it fast. Yeah, and then like I said, we never ended up meeting back up with Edgar and Alicia, but we ended up staying. You just kind of picked some random RV park, and it was nothing to write home about. Yeah, I picked just a random place in Ensenada, a campground. Anyway, so we went down to camp below, and there was like 4 vans down there, and then Marley had to go to the bathroom, so you ran up to go to the bathroom, and obviously didn't have toilet paper. And one thing in Mexico, you always want to bring your own toilet paper, wipes with you to the bathrooms, because 90% of the time they're not going to have it in the bathrooms. We ended up hanging out with all the van lifers. They've been on the road for, I think most of them for the past 3 years. Yeah, and it was Divine on the road, who was Sydney. Henry was Finding Finn, and those two had like pretty huge Instagram accounts. And then Chasing the Wild Goose was Sean and Bree. We had a short drive day the next day, but we all kind of went to bed, got up the next morning, said our goodbyes, and we met Jason's cousin in Ensenada for lunch. He took us to his favorite taco place, and we had tacos and tortas, and then he drove us back to the mission, which is in Carmen Sedan. And yeah, just hung out that evening, catching up, and telling him about our travels and figuring out what's going on with him. And then went to bed and got up Saturday, and he actually had to go in to meet up to grab a guy Thomas to bring him back to the mission. Yeah, Jeff and Thomas came back, and it was funny. He goes, "Hey, Francesca, this is Thomas." I'm like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And he's like, "Francesca? Like Francesca DeLuca?" And I'm like, "Nobody knows my maiden last name." And I'm like, "Yeah?" And he's like, "Yeah, Tom Ward." Literally, I think I probably last saw him when he was 4 or 5. His family were friends with our family growing up, and I used to babysit his 3 older siblings. It was just really a funny coincidence. And so that afternoon, the guys, Jeff, Thomas, and Jason, they decided they wanted to go on a hike. There's a rock up there, Shark's Fin, which is actually a kind of a rock climbing rock. And then there's all these basically hills back there that we were hiking through, and he was kind of showing us. He loves to hike and knows those hills like he's spent like 25 years at that mission. Ended up doing that hike and then coming back, and I was worn out, and so we ate and then went to bed. Woke up the next morning, which was Sunday, the last day of our week, and we really just kind of hung out at the mission on Sunday. Marley had met, there's 3 other little girls there, and it was so cute. One of the little girls comes up to me and she goes, "Marley's my English teacher and I'm her Spanish teacher." And so just really sweet that they were teaching each other their language. Yeah. And so they played all morning into the afternoon. And then later that evening, Jeff decided to take the whole family. The kids wanted to go up to the bouldering rocks. So he took us all up there, and we
Did the same little hike, not as long as the guys did basically, but kind of up to the rocks and hiked around and saw the views and took some pictures and then headed back. And we had a long drive day the next day, so we decided to hit the hay early, got as much done as we could to get ready for the next day, and hit the hay, said our goodbyes, and went to bed. And then that was our week with the OXFam. And as always, don't forget, there's discounts for you guys down below. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell button, like, and share. And as always, that was a week with the OXFam, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye!
See ya!